My name is Kelly Wood, and I'm the Associate Provost for Student Success here at Missouri State University. I'm really excited to share with you today what we do, who we serve, and introduce to you some of our newest staff members who provide direct support to our students. Our division was created out of a need to provide students with support and services to help them reach their goals. So you'll see here in this slide, first, we support students by empowering them to reach their academic, personal, and professional goals. We also support students in and out of the classroom through excellence in advising, teaching, and high-impact learning experiences. Lastly, we also provide support to the campus community by providing essential professional development through advising workshops, in-class learning experiences, as well as forums and proactive advising outreach. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to orient you to our student success services. I will introduce you to two of our newest student service professionals who help us meet our goals, and then offer you ways to get involved in this important work. So to start, I want to give you kind of a timeline or a summary of this Student Success Division. And I'm going to warn you ahead of time, I'm going to go back in the timeline. So I'm going to start with how our division started and then get you kind of caught up from there. So the summary of our Student Success Division is important because I'm guessing you're not familiar with our unit. It only started in late summer 2020. Our work began after years of support was established from our former Associate Provost, Dr. Rochelle Darabi. After she retired in late summer 2020, we established the Student Success Unit to house academic advising and transfer services, tutoring and writing services, first-year programs, and our newest unit, the Center for Academic Success and Transition. You'll also hear us talk about it like the CAST. We'll say CAST instead of Center for Academic Success and Transition. So in 2018, we launched the center after demonstrating some initial success, increasing first-generation student success from first year to second year. The drive for this approach came from recognizing that an increasing percentage of our freshman class were first-generation students, upwards of 30% of them. So imagine a third or more of your entering freshmen are identified as having come from a family who neither of their parents had a four-year degree. And to our amazement, we also discovered that these students do not return to their second year at the same rate as their non-first generation peers. In some cases, that gap is 12%. So recognizing this, we launched a series of programs to focus on the needs of these students, recognizing that entering college for them is like learning a new language or a new culture. So we needed to help navigate that language and that culture with them. So providing them the skills and information to help them more effectively get through college will be the key to their persistence through college and eventually to degree completion. Some of you might remember a few years ago the MSU stories and student profiles of our first generation students. As a result of those stories and that highlight, an alum stepped up with an initial donation to support first generation students financially, and he challenged others to join him. As a result of that, we set up a first generation student support scholarship fund. That provides programming, funds to help these students get across the finish line. We also use the funds to provide student support for study away, service learning programs both here and abroad, to offer workshops to students to show them how to apply for scholarships to fund their education, and to promote November 8th each year as First Generation Student Recognition Day. We couldn't have done this work without the support of many generous donors who stepped up because they recognized the need, but also because they too were first generation students. These early wins in addressing the needs of our students by improved retention and other outcomes led us to identify other student populations who need similar types of support to be successful in college. So 1 year after we started the Center for Academic Success and Transition, we were grateful to receive new space in Meyer Library, which has really become a new emerging space for student support services. With our new center here, a brand new space for student success, and accompanying new services, we knew that providing targeted academic support for more students was the next vanguard. So to help explain this next step in our evolution, I have a question for you. When you think of someone in college who made an impact on you or helped you get through college, who do you think of? Maybe it's a staff member from the student union, or your favorite faculty member. Maybe it was a smiling food service professional who greeted you each day. Your hall director, maybe it was an academic advisor, possibly a dean or staff member. Did you think to yourself, my peer counselor? What about an academic coach? Probably not, because these are our newest staff members who help students reach their academic and professional goals now. This is the next stage in student success for us. So student success professionals provide our students with a high-touch experience, a helpful connection on campus. They become navigators to help students through the maze of variety of resources we provide to students. Somebody who proactively provides just the right tip at just the right time. They may also help students prepare for those inevitable stressful times. They become a time management professional, which we could all use, I might add, a study skills guide, and maybe just somebody who's available to address those last minute questions or some issue that pops up. So these are our newest professionals. This slide will show you the types of professionals we have in student success. You probably know about an academic coach and an academic counselor. If you were, for example, an athlete, you had an academic counselor in the Achievement Center. Some of you maybe in your freshman seminar class had a peer leader. Those are the student success professionals we've had. Our newest are academic success coaches and peer counselors. You can see here in this next slide how we define them. And that's important so that we can understand the differences between them. So for a coach, it's like an athletic coach, but they help students become even better in their academic and professional skills. Whereas our peer counselors, that's a program that focuses on peers helping other peers be successful on campus. So no matter the title that we give them, these students today, through these professionals, thrive when our staff provide them with just-in-time support using the latest technology to connect students with the information they need and someone who will guide them to success. Sometimes that's after a rough semester, getting to meet a professor, preparing for that, and completing their degree. So who wouldn't want that type of person in their corner helping them succeed? So with that sort of extended introduction, I want to introduce you further to two of our newest professionals, Michael and Maddie. Michael Rexroad is one of our peer counselors, and Maddie Lormond is an academic success coach. So I'm going to ask them to join us on the screen and give you some time to get to know them through some conversation time. Well, hi there. Thanks for joining us today. So I wanted to let you know that through this conversation, this is our time to really help our audience members and our community get to know what you do, who you are, and talk through your work in the Center for Academic Success and Transition. So as I've been talking in this webinar so far, the mission of our work is student success, helping those students meet their academic, professional, and personal goals. And our goal today is so that our audience members get to know you and the work that you do. So I'm going to start with Michael. You're an undergraduate student, a cell and molecular biology major, and you transferred here from Longview Community College in Kansas City. You work as a peer counselor. So tell us about your job and how you came to this position, because you've really got a great story.
My story of becoming a peer counselor is, I'll call it a lucky one, which is what I tell a lot of people. I graduated in 2018 and I attended Longview for my first year. And my academic advisor that I had there was very amazing. And she knew that I wanted to get involved on campus and do something that was, good. So one day she emailed me and told me that the Department of Higher Education was looking for students to pilot this new program called peer counseling. Uh, I said yes. And so I spent a lot of time out there trying to find ways to help students and, you know, figure out ways that they can, make their college experience better. And sorry, in the time that I was there, I got to know a lot of the people through the Department of Education, and eventually I got asked to go give a speech in Jeff City at a student success summit. And I was really nervous because there was a lot of people there, but it went really well. And after I got done, the next speaker came up after me and she had a bag that had a Missouri State Bear on it. And I had already planned on transferring to Missouri State in the fall. So I told her, I was like, oh, your bag, it's so cool. And she was like, oh, you're going to Missouri State? And I was like, yeah. And it turns out that the person I ran into was actually Kelly. And she seemed so nice to talk to and really liked what we had talked about that day. And she asked me if I was interested in doing peer counseling at Missouri State. So, which was like a dream come true, which I don't know if I told her that at the time because I was still a little nervous. But so since then, I've come to Missouri State and I've worked with Kelly, and we've hired two other peer counselors, and all of us just do our best to meet with students and find ways to, help with anything that they have going on. And between the three of us, we're all very different and we all have our different strengths, and we do our best to be knowledgeable of campus resources and staff and anything that the students can use to make their college experience a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that about the three of you, because you're right. We do provide very different sets of experiences with you as a transfer student and others who have started here. And so it's nice to have that balance of experience to share with students. So you're finishing your second year as a peer counselor. And as you mentioned, you were really at the start of us creating this position here. So in your time here, what have you noticed that students get by working with you as a peer counselor? What do you think they gain in this experience?
I think even if everybody doesn't want to admit it, I think at some point everybody needs a peer counselor. So, and what I mean by that is I think everybody needs a support system. So, whenever you come to college, it's a big change, and it's not only are you diving into new content and stuff that could be a little bit more difficult than what you were used to in high school. There's also a lot of changes. You're living in a new place. You have to meet new people. And so, I think what I've discovered is that sometimes people just need somebody to be there to reassure them and kind of guide them in the right path in a place that they're not used to.
Right.
And, it's what I find more interesting is that even though we're at college, you would think people struggle with a lot of academic stuff, but you start realizing that there's a lot more things outside of their schoolwork that they struggle with. And that could be making friends, that could be, figuring out what they're going to eat because they don't have their parents to buy them food. So, we do whatever we can to just solve those issues because we know that there's a lot of them and we know there's a lot of people that need help.
Yeah, and that peer-to-peer contact is so important. So now it's Maddie's turn. Maddie Lormond, you're a graduate student in the mental health and counseling program and really just finishing up your first semester as an academic coach. So tell us how you came to this position. Why did you apply for it? And then, tell us a little bit about your job, a couple, two or three things.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm aspiring to be a counselor. So helping people is something that aligns with my values, and coaching allows me to help students with their academic concerns. I'm also passionate about CASA's mission of assisting students in being successful in their academic career and navigating this challenging life of being a college student. I am also a first-generation student myself, so the emphasis on providing resources to first-generation students was also a big factor in my decision to become a coach. As a coach, I conduct research on the academic concerns that students report and find helpful resources and strategies that I can share with them in meetings. These meetings can be as frequent as necessary, depending on their identified risk level. As a coach, I'm also aware of helpful campus resources that I can refer my students to for additional assistance. And one last aspect of my job is hosting educational events or workshops, including one over preparation for finals that we are currently in the planning stages for at the end of this semester.
That's great. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of different things. So all of them involving students. So as an academic coach, describe for our audience, what's the big win that you've had, even just in your short time as an academic coach? What's something that has been really rewarding for you to see?
So far in my time as an academic coach, I'm seeing many wins each day, small wins. One big win that comes to mind is with one of my students who is on academic probation currently and sought out academic coaching to assist him with time management and studying skills. So this student has showed dedication by consistently coming to coaching meetings and implementing the strategies we discuss, and he is certainly on the right track to getting off academic probation, which is the goal. Over the course of our meetings, we have devised a time management plan that works for him, identified common studying traps and how to avoid them, and have continued to conduct frequent check-ins to make sure that he's implementing these resources and making adjustments when necessary. And the student now uses Planner diligently to write down all his due dates, including his own fake deadlines to get things done ahead of time, or break a big project into manageable chunks. He also now uses Planner to schedule time to work on things and look ahead to future assignments when he used to only look at weekly assignments and do them at the very last minute. And he has also improved his studying skills tremendously by learning to spread out his times studying and working on assignments, including having study breaks, which are really important to be motivated, as well as using the 5-day exam prep strategy that we utilize, which mainly just talks about organizing your study information. That way you have a well-rounded knowledge of what's going to be on the exam.
Right. I just love the variety of things that you just shared, because it's amazing the different things students have to learn to do really in their first year here that can make or break a student's success while they're here. Just getting students to use a planner is huge, and knowing how to prioritize things and break them down into smaller chunks is something that we all need to do to be successful. And this is really the training ground for them, isn't it? And the work with you all is key to that. So that's just such a great place for us to continue our conversation. So these next couple of questions are for either one of you to jump in. So we've given the audience a little overview of your job and the services that you provide. So why do you think today's students benefit from academic coaching or peer counseling? Because I wonder if a lot of people listening in may be thinking, I got through college just fine and I didn't have a coach. Why do we need this program? So what would you say in response to that? Why do students need it?
Well, from my perspective, it seems like nowadays there's a lot more prevalence of people that, have these issues related to college. So it's been interesting for me that within the time that I've been here, obviously you can hear that people have problems, but there's also been a couple ways that we've seen that happen. So in my first semester here, in the first couple ones I've been here, we heard in even a news article that I saw in the newspaper one time that the counseling center had like record numbers of people coming. And, that's good because, that means that people are coming and looking for help, but that also tells you that there's a lot of people struggling. And on top of that, with the transition that COVID and the whole pandemic put us through, put a lot of strain on students' lives. And they came into college, waking up and going to a classroom every day, and next thing you know, you're watching lectures from a laptop. And so, it's amazing that we're hearing these experiences because it really tells us that a lot of people were struggling more than we think. And in a lot of cases, a lot of those people can be afraid to reach out sometimes and, get help. So I think it's good that both the academic coaches and peer counselors are here because all of us are able to really reach out and let those people know that, it's not only them that's going through it, because I think there's a lot of people that are in the same situation of them, and that makes them scared to come out and talk about it. And also, we really care about, getting them on the right track and making them have a better college experience.
Yeah. I think sometimes people who graduated college 5, 10, even 15, 20 years ago may not realize how big the FAFSA is, how hard it is. It's much longer than it was than when some of us filled it out years and years ago. But that just the struggles of working and college and now having to navigate an online learning experience, as well as I think the value of the generation of students now is that they're willing to talk about their mental health struggles, and that we have those services and making them available to students. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, Michael. And I know I saw Maddie kind of nodding along, since that's the field that you're going into. You definitely can understand that. So, well, I use that as an opportunity to ask you, Maddie, the next question. As you're an aspiring mental health counselor, talk us through a typical meeting that you have with a student who's referred to you, so that our listeners can have an idea of what it's like to sit down with an academic coach and what you do to prepare.
Yeah, so when I'm first assigned a student, I prepare for the first meeting by identifying the current concerns or goals that the student or professor listed on the referral form. And after I identify these, I research them and gather resources to assist my students in working on these areas of concerns or goals. So this first meeting, my first initial meeting with my student, is when I really get to know the student and their perspective on what they need help with academically, and professional goals and personal goals, and then begin their personalized action plan. So just really get to know the student, and then from there on, we just work on implementing these resources and strategies in this personalized action plan. And then I continue meeting up with them to make sure that they're keeping up with their plan and making adjustments when necessary.
That's great. And I know you talk about resources, but I'm going to jump back over to Michael and ask you that question. What are typical or common campus resources that you end up talking to students about?
I love that question, because whenever I think about meeting with students and the things that I talk about them the most, there's definitely 3 resources that come to my mind immediately. And that would be our campus recreation, our Office of Student Engagement, and Campus Link. So I think I notice a lot of the time that the students really struggle with getting themselves out there and getting used to college life and getting to know people. And so I always try to direct them to those things, because it gives them an opportunity to really integrate themselves into Missouri State and kind of develop themselves as a person outside of just doing their academic work. Because college is a lot more than just coming and trying to learn stuff that's going to bring you to a career one day. It's also kind of figuring out who you are and the kind of people you fit in with and the kind of things that, you like to do besides just going to school. So I think it's really important to direct students to those. And I have a lot of cases where that helps out people a lot when I or get them to go look those things up.
That's great. So you've talked a little bit, Maddie and Michael, about resources and what you do in your meetings with students. So I wonder if you talk a little bit about what's challenging in these conversations. What are the things that can kind of really stretch you to think about your role and how to help a student? So Maddie, what's something that's challenging about your job?
Something that's challenging about academic coaching is the occasional incongruence of what the student wishes to accomplish or change in the actual effort to make this happen. And to help students with this, we have frequent meetings or check-ins to hold them accountable, as well as helping them realize change takes work and dedication, and pointing out when they aren't quite sticking to their plan and kind of steering them back in the right path, and helping them find ways to implement that and make adjustments.
I imagine you're going to experience that in your role as mental health counselor too, about that misalignment of approaches there. So Michael, how about you? What's been challenging about this role for you?
Well, and like Kelly mentioned, and like I mentioned too, I've been here since we started the program. So obviously, whenever you start something brand new and you're working from the ground up, just getting it started and coming up with ideas and getting your name out was definitely something that we had to work pretty hard at when we started. And I think I am very thankful that I had the other two pair counselors, Rhiannon and Alex, because they definitely come up with these great ideas, whether that's making posters or having these amazing ways to get people to come. And I think in the time that we've worked here, we've done so much better with getting people to come in pretty frequently. And I think we've done a lot of good things, as our time as peer counselors.
Spoken like a true peer counselor, taking something that's a challenge and turning it around into something positive. Good for you. So what's been rewarding for you in this job? I'll throw it back to Maddie. What's been rewarding so far in these last 4 months that you've started in this job?
The most rewarding part of this job is seeing students' grades improve throughout coaching, as well as their self-confidence in their abilities. It really makes me so happy to see students increase their self-confidence and know that they have the potential to succeed, and just needed a little helping hand along the way to guide them towards that path.
Yep. I think we all feel that way when we work with students and see that progress and see them taking it seriously and getting some good outcomes. How about you, Michael? As a student, what's rewarding about this for you?
Well, I guess my whole life especially has been, geared around helping other people and trying to just make their day a little bit better. So it's really nice for me that I get to do a job where I get to see people's lives improve. And I think on top of that, it is, we're called peer counselors for a reason. So, we're on the same level as these students and we have very similar experiences. So it's nice that, you can meet with a student one day and then you see them on campus later. And it's kind of like you see a friend that you got to see, come back and you talk to them like, you've known each other forever. And it's just amazing to know that we do something that sometimes keeps students here and keeps them from feeling like they didn't belong at Missouri State. So I think that's definitely a very rewarding part of the job.
Exactly. And we want both of you to be that person that students remember that helped them be successful years after they graduate, that they remember that coach they had, Maddie, and that peer counselor, Michael, that they had that was that one person they could go to ask for help or to get that strategy or tip that they need to be successful. So with that in mind, so I've got a final question for you two to work through, which is, what are the ways that community members might become involved in the work that we do at the center? Maybe some expertise that they can bring to what we do that might be applied to students.
Yeah, I can take this one first.
Yeah.
So one way that community members could get involved in the work that we do is by mentoring future college-bound students or current college-bound students, and helping them through the process. They're navigating something new, and having a mentor there to kind of lean back on is really helpful. As well as just advocating that any student can be college-bound if they are taught how to prepare for college, and being aware of what obstacles could arise and ways to overcome them. And then lastly, another helpful thing that community members could do is, by course, donating funds for scholarships for students to have the opportunity to attend college who may not have been able to attend otherwise.
Those are great. Great minds think alike, Maddie. Yep. Michael, what would you add to that you'd like to suggest that somebody could add in terms of expertise or assistance?
Well, I think there's a lot of people in the community that don't realize how much we look up to people that have, made it through our programs and stuff. So, me being a cell and molecular bio major, our classes are sometimes pretty difficult and whatnot. And so, whenever you get to talk to somebody that's made it out, you're like, what did you do? And like, how are you doing now? So, being able to talk to people in the community, they have a lot of those answers that we're looking for, and, the information that we don't know. And, and it can be for any field. You could be a doctor, you could be a business person, you could, be just about anything. But it means so much to students whenever we can learn stuff from you, because, nobody can see the future, but in our eyes, you're somebody that can, because you're already doing what we're trying to. So, in a lot of ways that offers a lot more support to undergrad students or even graduate students in some case when you really think of it that way.
Right, exactly. Well, I really appreciate both of you for joining me today in this conversation. You two are making such amazing contributions to the lives of our students. Just to watch you two talk about your experiences, and your eyes light up, and it's obviously clicking it for you about ways that we're supporting students. So thanks again for joining us. We'll see you again soon. So bye. For the rest of you, I really hope you've enjoyed this conversation and learned more about how we support our students in our Division of Student Success. I'm really honored to lead this group of amazing and dedicated professionals. I don't think I had mentioned to you that we'll have upwards of 10 academic coaches starting in the next 3 to 5 months. And then we'll have 3 to 10 peer counselors as well, supporting one another. There's really more on the horizon for us, and I hope you consider joining us in that journey. So my work with students over the last 25 years tells me that students respond very positively to community members, as Michael mentioned, especially those who come to campus. They share their nuggets of advice, tips for success, how they struggled and how they responded to that and where they're at now. There's really good research to support that when students hear stories from those like themselves, whatever their background is, and those who struggled and made it through to the other side, hearing those stories actually helps our students persist at higher rates. So with that in mind, my ask is just that. Will you share your story and expertise with our students? So what can you do? So lastly, I would just ask you to consider any of these options. Maddie and Michael provided a good summary of these already. So I hope you consider volunteering to be a peer-to-peer kind of coach to our, for example, our coaches and our peer counselors, that they could hear from you about how to be a professional in these situations, how to continue to motivate yourself when your students don't feel motivated. You may also be a mentor to our students. We're happy to have you join us in doing that. You may also donate to our First Generation Student Support Fund, or really any scholarship fund that helps students directly. And then lastly, as Maddie mentioned, if you know any college-bound or current college students at Missouri State, let them know about our student